Hey guys, the Explorer of Horror here, the Horror Boy, and today we're continuing the Friday the 13th reviews. Finally, it took me a few days to get these reviews back up. But we're continuing our reviews with it might be a controversial review because this is actually a fan favorite. My review on Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood, which came out in 1988, is directed by John Carl Buechler. I believe it gets a 5 point something on IMDb, but my computer the battery's dead, and the charger isn't working. So once I get a new charger, I'll be able to charge my computer again. So for right now, the ratings will be probably out of the videos. But The New Blood, I think this movie is okay. I think at best it's a decent movie. And I don't know. This is a movie that a lot of people back in the day were really hyping up. And I remember ever since I first watched this movie, I really didn't get into the film. It's a movie that the concept and the music, the way the movie's shot, the way the movie looks, that gothic style, which I don't like that much in these movies, where it's just a plain dark atmosphere with there's like just no life to the atmosphere, and then from part 6 to like even part 9, like there's no life in the atmosphere, and that's a big thing in the first 5 movies. The first 5 movies has that thing where it feels legitimate. It feels like you could really go to this place and spend your summer there. You can really relate to this place. It looks real. But then when part 6 came along, you had that dark, rainy atmosphere, and it really didn't feel the same. And I will say this. Everybody likes to say this movie has a cool concept. I think this movie's concept is a little bit, just to me, it's just, this is coming from a guy who likes Jason Goes to Hell, but for me, I cannot get into this concept, where they wanted to make Freddy vs. Jason, and of course, Freddy vs. Jason, I think, was in development hell for like 30 years. It was from, I think, the mid-'80s to the, of course, early 2000s. So not 30 years, but maybe like 20 years. But still, for a while, it was in development hell. Freddy vs. Jason was. And for some reason, New Line and Paramount couldn't come to an agreement, so they couldn't do the film. So, pretty much, they had this idea of Jason versus Carrie. Jason versus this girl with telekinesis and her using mind powers and stuff like that. And I'm sorry, I even say this, Jason X, I can't absolutely hate, but when a movie has a dumb, cheesy plot, I'll point it out. Jason X is kind of like this movie, where I think it's sometimes okay, other times I watch it and it's just a dumb movie. But we'll get to Jason X. But it's the same thing here, where to me, the concept of Jason versus Carrie, and everybody saying it's a cool idea, how they do it is cool. The telekinesis done practically, I can give them that. But I don't like that idea. To me, it doesn't fit the series. Outer space doesn't fit the series. Hell, the hidden concept in Jason Goes to Hell doesn't fit, but at least that movie has gore, has great nudity, has a great lead, in my opinion, has a little bit more of a different feel. It's meant to be different. This movie is still, at the lake, in the woods, with Jason. Jason Goes to Hell is kind of a different movie, because there's no Jason in that movie. It's Jason possessing people. And people are like, how dare you say, partnering over this movie? I'm like, well, first of all, Part 9, I'm sorry, I will say this. This movie is decent because of a few things, and it's pretty watchable because of a few things as well. There's some ideas in this movie that I don't mind. There's some things in this movie I don't really think are that bad, but I just think, even with the gore in there, it would still be a decent movie, because to me, I'm not a fan of Tina. I'm not a fan of that concept. Carrie is the last person in the entire realm of horror that I would put against Jason. That's like putting the Reanimator against Jason. Why would you put Reanimator against Jason? Or the Children of the Corn? Why the hell would you do that? That's like the worst to me, crossovers you could do. Like Ghostface versus Jason. Like, really? Ghostface? But Freddy and Michael and Leatherface and, even Tall Man. I can see Tall Man. I can see Maniac Cop. Pumpkinhead versus Jason. I can see that. I can see Ash versus Jason. Because Ash, to me, I can actually, I don't know. To me, when I think of Carrie or Leprechaun versus Jason or Chucky versus Jason or Ghostface, I'm not meaning to offend anybody, but those just don't work for me personally. If they work for you, that's totally fine. But for me personally, they just don't work. That's why when I heard about that whole big giant idea they're going to do where like one studio wanted to buy all the rights to the slasher films and make like an MCU formula where there's one origin story for each one of them and then they're going to put all of them in one movie. To me, that just does not work. And I know people are like, oh, that's such a cool idea. I'm like, I don't know if that would work. Leprechaun fighting Freddy and Chucky versus Michael Myers. These things I don't think should be all together. And I just do not think... I think Freddy versus Jason fits awesomely. Alien versus Predator fits awesomely. But for me to have a Carrie-type character versus Jason, just not my preference. It's not my thing. That's not an idea that I enjoy. I think it's a cheesy idea. I think the way that it's done is very cheesy, in my opinion. And I'm not a fan of Tina. I'm not a fan of the character. The acting isn't the strongest for me. The character isn't the strongest for me. Nothing personal. I don't think it was the actress's fault. I mean, I don't know if it was the script's fault. I don't know. The character just did not work for me. Tina is one of my least favorite leads. But like I said, there's nothing... I'm not, saying that in a bad way. I'm just saying, just preferably, she's, not one of my favorite leads. But the actress is really nice in real life. She's a very kind person. Got a lot of respect for her. Seen her interviews. Just personally, not a big fan of the character. Not a big fan of Kevin Spurtaz in the film as the second lead. To me, they just don't have chemistry. The acting and the characters just didn't really get into that. And the movie starts out, you see a little girl. It's actually the same little girl from Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 3. She's young Tina. She's seeing her mom get abused by her dad. Her dad, slaps her mom. She gets mad at him and runs out to a boat. He comes outside, he's on the deck, and she's like, I hate you. I wish you were dead. And then it, zooms in on her eyes, and it's like that. And then the water just, goes to the... Like I said, it's done. I will give the movie this. It's done practically. It's not with CGI. It's not with some cheap stuff that you would see nowadays. Everything the telekinesis involved with in this movie is done practically. I will give the filmmakers that. So you see these water bubbles come to the lake. That's a pretty cool thing. And the deck breaks apart, and her dad falls down with the deck in the lake and drowns and dies. And Tina, it's years later. She was sent to a hospital, and now she's out, and she's gonna go to Crystal Lake to meet this doctor, Terry Kaiser from Weekend at Bernie's. And basically, she's going there to see if he can help her with her abilities, see if she can go back into society. And while that whole thing is going on, there's teens there as well, and they're all partying and the typical stuff. And one night, Tina gets angry, and she wants her father to come back from the dead. She wants to bring her father back with her mind powers. Mistakenly, she brings back Jason, and basically, Jason goes on a killing spree again. Very basic idea. But to me, the thing about a Friday the 13th movie to me is you've got to at least have decent characters. When I go into a Jason movie, I'm not looking for 5-star acting. I mean, hell, I'm a big fan of the remake. That movie doesn't have 5-star acting, but the characters are just what they are. They're there. They're not horrible, but they're not great. To me, this movie and Freddy vs. Jason and the supporting cast of Jason Goes to Hell, not the lead, the supporting cast, Jason X, all these other Jason movies, after pretty much part 5, even part 6 didn't have the greatest cast either. Their characters are just, there's nothing about them that makes them unique. There's nothing about them that makes them, and the acting isn't very good. There's maybe, there's a blonde chick who's a bitch. There's a guy who's obsessed with science fiction. There's a guy who, smokes, he's pretty much the pothead of the movie. Tina has telekinesis, but, besides that, there's just nothing special about them. There's nothing, just to me at least, that brings them out as at least decent characters. They're just generic teens. The acting isn't the greatest. You have some lines like, "Oh, I knew I fell in love with you since day one when I seen the size of your big giant wallet." I'm just like, oh man, that's just not very good. And there's a guy that goes, "I'll be back in 2 shakes." I'm just like, the acting is just so, I don't know, man. The acting is not the strongest. And I love part 5's acting and characters. Junior, Ethel, Tommy, Pam, Reggie the Reckless, his brother, his grandfather, the stuttering kid, the girl who laughs at his face. I can remember those characters like that. Part 3, not a big fan of Dana Kimmel, but I remember her. The stoner guy, the stoner couple. You can remember, people from part 1, Kevin Bacon and his girlfriend, and Brenda, and the lead, Pamela Voorhees. The first 5 movies all have decent characters. Part 4, Jimmy and Ted, very good characters. But, I mean, I'm not gonna say that this movie is very dry as far as gore, but I'm not gonna count that against the movie, because Giancarlo Beekler, which, by the way, rest in peace to him, fantastic guy, seen interviews with him, seemed like a really cool guy, was always passionate about every project he was involved with, did great makeup effects, was just altogether a really, really kind person, and definitely tried his best with this movie. And I will say that, very cool guy, seems very passionate about horror. So yeah, great guy, Giancarlo Beekler. I think he made Troll and Ghoulies 3, among other sequels as well. But yeah, really, really great guy. So a big fan of Giancarlo Beekler. But I'm not going to count because the MPAA raped this movie. And even Giancarlo Beekler said they raped this movie. And they tore it to shreds. This is probably the most heavily censored and heavily de-gored and de-blooded movie of the series. There's not even blood in the movie. It's like a PG-13. This is what you would get. All you gotta do is remove the F-bombs and the nudity, and you'd have a PG-13 Friday the 13th film. Pretty much. Same with Part 8. Part 8, you remove the curse scene, and hell, there's not even nudity in Part 8, if I remember correctly. Maybe one shot. But yeah, Part 8 also isn't very gory. But Part 8 is far worse than this, I will say that. I know there's fans of Part 8, not a fan of Part 8. Part 8 is one of my least favorites. But Part 7, it got horribly censored. And I feel bad for the movie in that case. So that is very unfortunate. It would have been cool seeing Kane Hodder, crush people's skulls in and taking an axe and splitting the guy's face up like this. And then there was all kinds of cool ideas for the film, but unfortunately the footage got lost and was badly damaged. So seeing a remastered version or an alternate cut, unrated version of Part 7 is kind of impossible, but that's very unfortunate. But yeah, as far as bad things go, I mean, it's not the movie's fault, but there is no... And when you don't have any blood, you ain't got no good acting. You ain't got no characters I like. I don't like the leads. I don't like the concept. It's very hard to not get bored with the movie. So the movie does drag a little bit. It's boring at times. You're just waiting for that final showdown. And to me, the best part of the movie is the third act, because Even though I'm not a fan of the concept, it is pretty cool seeing, the roof falling on Jason, or Jason's in this water puddle, and she uses electric wire to shock him to death. She, like, tosses a plant and hits Jason, like a plant in a pot, tosses and hits Jason. Like, makes these nails come out of this box and hit Jason right in the head. All practically, by the way. All practically. Lampshade hits Jason in the head. He falls back, goes to the stairs. That stuff I all liked. The house is on fire, and she, lets the gas on Jason, and the house blows up in a practical effect. That was pretty cool. To me, that was the best ending. Just leave it at that. No, we had to get a really, really bad very ending. Very, very ending of the film. It was very, very bad. But, yeah, I mean, like I said, bad things. I'm not a fan of the score either. That lullaby-ish score, to me, doesn't sound very good. This, and Part 8, and Part 9, and Jason X, and Freddy vs. Jason don't have the greatest music. And most of them were done by Harry Manfredini. And it was just, I think he was trying to experiment with these movies and do different kinds of score, different kinds of music, but not in this case. In this case, Harry Manfredini wasn't even involved with the score. I think it was, the only pieces of music you hear from Harry Manfredini in this movie is the music he made for the previous films. They just reuse it in this movie. But the movie has like a theme song I don't really like, and a lullaby score. Just doesn't fit to me. The atmosphere just looks like it was shot on a set. And maybe it was in the woods. It just doesn't look legitimate to me. The shots, the lighting, just doesn't, it's not appealing to look at to me. It's creepy at night. And during the day, it's not atmospheric. It's just a very, very plain atmosphere. The teens, there's nothing to them. It's boring sometimes. But I will say this. Kane Hodder. I don't know why I almost said Kevin Nash. Can you imagine Kevin Nash playing Jason? But Kane Hodder was one of my favorite things about this movie. He brought intensity to Jason. To me, he is my personal favorite Jason. I'd say between him and Derek Mears and Ted White and Richard Brooker, those are some of my favorite Jasons. But Kane Hodder, man, I think he deserves everything that he gets, as far as credit for the role. I mean, he just blows it out of the park. His movements, how he turns his head, he's always pissed. Just a cool Jason. The makeup, I thought, was awesome on Jason. They should have never changed that makeup To me, that's the ultimate look for Jason. That's the ultimate zombie Jason look. For me, Part 4 is the ultimate human Jason look. But to me, Part 7 is the ultimate zombie Jason look, where he has everything from the previous movies. The axe mark, the chunk out of the mask, his clothes are ripped and torn. He's slime covered. You see bones and spine, protruding from his back. You see like a rotted part of his face right here. That's where the mask was damaged. You see the machete mark in the side of the head. You see everything. And when he gets unmasked at the end of the movie, it looks amazing. Like, legit amazing effect on the face. So yeah, Kane Hodder was great. The makeup was awesome on Kane Hodder and the look of Jason. I love the third act. I really do. They had creative kills, but they just wasn't, there's no gore to it. So unfortunately, it really affects the pacing, because now, usually in a slower paced movie, you look forward to, or at least a slasher film, look forward to the kills at least. In this movie, you're not going to get the greatest kills. So that's what makes the pacing kind of drag. And I liked certain, I don't know, it just, to me, still ended up being a fun little Jason movie. Even though it pretty much sounded like I just ripped it to shreds. I mean, I don't try to. I'm just honest about it, man. I'm not a big fan of that idea. But the third act is great. Kane Hodder is great. There are some awesome scenes, some classic scenes that I really thought were shot well. That scene where Jason, rises out of the water and walks towards, the shore. The movie's beginning with the awesome montage of footage from the previous movies, and you have Crazy Ralph narrating it. There's a curse in Crystal Lake, a death curse, Jason Voorhees curse. They say he died as a boy, but he keeps coming back. Some have even tried to stop him, but no one can. It's a great speech. Has a lot of montage from the previous movies, which are done well. You have the lightning shooting and blowing up the gravestone, which I think was a teaser for part 6. But yeah, and I think there are some ideas I don't really mind. And there are some decent ideas for kills. Like a guy gets supposed to be. These are how the kills were supposed to be. You know, a guy gets his face split with an axe. A girl gets drowned to death. One girl gets like a party horn in her eye. One guy gets his head crushed. And in the theatrical version, you don't see anything. But in the uncut version, Kane Hodder just crushes this guy's skull to like the size of a walnut. And it's an amazing effect. You know, taking spikes and, you know, throwing at people and hitting them in the back and, you know, stabbing it through them. Spikes in the back of the head. You have a cool, classic, awesome, that's another classic scene where Jason, you know, has the girl in the sleeping bag and hits her against the tree. Just a lot of decent kills. Axe to the face of the girl. Machete to the guy who's sitting on the couch, chops him right neck with a machete. Kitchen knife kill. Throwing a girl out of a window. You have so many creative kills. Taking this, like, I don't know what it is, but this, like, lawn ornament thing and stabbing it through Tina's mom. And then rimming up, like, a weed whacker from hell with a saw blade on the end of it. And sawing the doctor character, like, pretty much in half. His entrails are flying everywhere. That stuff was pretty cool. It's just the fact that there was no gore. Those are very trimmed down kills. And the very ending, I'm not a fan of either. It's really, really bad, where Tina brings back her dad from the dead, supposedly. But yet, when he comes back, he's not a zombie, he's not rotten, he's just got a little bit of mud on him. And because Jason comes out of the burning house, and, you know, you think he's dead, but he's not. Knocks out Kevin Spurtus, and then tries to kill Tina, and she brings her dad out of the water. He comes out, grabs Jason, pulls him into the water, and that's really how Jason is stopped in this movie. I'm like, really? That way? And there's also some really bad stuff with Tina seeing the future, seeing future stuff happening, or seeing kills that have already happened, and now she's freaking out. I didn't care for that stuff. There is a pretty cool shot where, you know, she makes the mask shrink on Jason's head and break, or the pearls that levitate and break. So yeah, some cool scenes, but I don't know. Has problems, but it also has some really good stuff in it. I think overall it's a pretty decent Friday the 13th film. It's just not one of my favorites, but Part 7 is definitely a decent movie. It's definitely an okay film. I don't hate it. I just have problems with it. But next year we'll be getting to Part 8, and that will be a rant, because Part 8, in my opinion, is awful. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching my review on Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood. I'll see you guys later in Manhattan for Part 8. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Explorer of Horror is out. Bye, y'all.